episode 035 with Jennifer Paige. This episode was brought to you by Singing Mastery, the One Voice Method. It's my 6-week online singing program which will give you the tools to discover and master your voice so you can skyrocket your performances. I hope you can join me and check out the link in the show notes if you're interested in learning more about the program. Welcome to another episode of One Voice Can Change the World podcast. Thank you so much for chiming in again if you're a regular listener. And for those of you who are new, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. It's not the usual structure of my podcast because this interview was taken from my HSC workshop, which I currently conducted for singers sitting for their high school certificate here in Sydney. Jennifer Paige was our guest speaker and she spoke about her music mindset experience. Now, I met Jennifer in 2013 when I traveled to LA with some of my wonderful One Voice students who sang at the major theme parks there in LA. So Jennifer and I were doing a course together and we met through the course, and she invited me to her gig after she found out that I was going to LA. And as soon as we landed to LA, I was there with my son and my husband. My uncle took us for lunch at Sizzler, and then I said, how far away is this venue where she's singing? If you wouldn't mind driving us, we'd really love to go and watch it. So it took us 45 minutes and we found the venue, and it was set outdoors in a kind of home and garden franchise. It must have been a big franchise, because she was kind of touring in all the same home and garden venue, but all around, I think, in LA. So I went to that one, and they were serving hot chocolate, and that was so much fun. And we just kind of sat down and listened to her sing Christmas tunes, and she was wonderful. So we kept in touch ever since. And if you don't know who Jennifer Paige is, she's the singer of the hit Crush. It's one of those go-to songs where you need to have it in your repertoire as a cover band singer. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Jen, where she shares her tips on how to overcome performance anxiety and how to create that winning mindset for performances. Welcome to One Voice Can Change the World podcast. I'm your host, Tina Bangle, vocal coach and professional vocalist. In each episode, we bring you an inspiring person doing wonders in the music industry today. We hope to give you motivating messages to help you navigate towards your musical dreams. I'm so grateful you're here, and now let's give you something to sing about. Well, thank you, Jen, for joining us. I'm so honored that you can share all your mindset knowledge with some of my students. It's really good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
Yeah. So I just want to give a big shout out to my students who gave the questions, who is Ali, Abigail, and Marion. Nice. And they really, really beautiful questions that they sent you. So mainly they were focusing on performance and how you practice, and then songwriting, and then work-life balance. So
love it. Okay, good.
Dive into those things. So the reason why I wanted you to go and share your mindset, process and how you get into that zone when you're performing is because, you've done so many amazing things, selling 11 million copies of your song Crush. That's just mind-blowing.
Yes.
So cool. And going number 1 in 16 countries. And also performing for is it the Atlantic Olympics? Was it
Yeah, I did do that.
Yeah. So, you have to have that certain mindset and nail your performances all the time, even though, sometimes you may not feel like doing a performance or.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So one of the great questions that they all ask, what did you do in preparation for your performances? Like, what do you normally do? What's your routine, your rituals?
So in the beginning of my career, I had more rituals But I think what happens in like everything that you do, once things become habit for you, it's just so much easier it's like riding a bike, you know? So, for me, the only thing that's really important for me is just to have some alone time before I go on stage. So I don't really like to do interviews right before a show. I don't really like to do autographs or be in front, like be with the crowd. Let's say I'm doing a festival or something, then I like to really do all of that afterwards. And I love to be with, the crowd. It's like my most favorite thing. But I like to do that after I've performed typically, because it's just such a different mindset. And I feel like when you're going on stage, you want to be larger than life in most settings, like on a big stage. You really need to think outside of your personal self and go bigger and really take things to another level so that it's entertaining, so you really want to be entertaining for people. And so I like to think about that before I go on, like, okay, what do I really want to deliver? Like what am I trying to do here today? And so if I don't have that time and things are really, really rushed, I found that like I just am not as connected and I'm not as in the moment. I'm kind of going through the motions more, but it's just really, really difficult for me to really be in the moment. And it really does show up. It shows up in the performance. So for me, I'm pretty simple. I would say I'm kind of like a singer. I love to just have my tea, have a few moments, and get out there and kind of go bigger than I would if I was just like hanging out with you like we are today,
Yeah. So how do you do that though? Like, I think that's one of the keys, like as starting out as a young performer and you haven't done so many performances.
Right.
How do you make yourself bigger than what you are when, you're feeling small?
So, be encouraged, because I was, 15, 16 years old, and I had gone to a summer camp, and it was like a singing song, not songwriting, singing, dancing, stuff like that, acting and stuff like that. I was really into that stuff, even at that age. And, I was kind of like, everybody was kind of putting me like up on a pedestal there. They were like, I was really getting noticed for my singing and like in the practices and stuff. And it really shut me down. It was the first time I'd really gotten like noticed in a big way. And I got so nervous for the performance that I ran off the stage crying.
Oh no.
I was terrified. I was shaking so badly. And so just know that like, that's where I'm coming from. And now I don't even get nervous before I go on stage. I just love it. I love being up there. And so I do think that it's a process, and I think it's just practice makes perfect. You have to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. Don't be too precious about what it is you're trying to do. Put yourself out there in bad situations, bad talent shows, good talent shows, like do it all, because every single time, even if the surroundings are not great, like you are learning and you are getting better. So that would be my best advice for anybody who's like terrified. Do it. Just sign up for something. Like if I could challenge you right now, I want to say like, go sign up for something after you watch this. Like go sign up for some kind of competition, go sing for somebody, go create a video of yourself and post it online. Do something that's actually going to scare the pants off of you. And that will actually really start to move the needle.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because even for myself now, I've been performing for a while, but sometimes I hold myself back from going and putting myself online.
Right?
Because you just overthink things.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's, we are a different breed. Like we just have to accept that. We are, a lot of, we're here talking about mindset. Well, let's be honest, like most of us, the reason we turned to music was because we were shy or we were uncomfortable or we just loved to escape into music or whatever it was that, or maybe we just need that way to feel special about, maybe that thing that really helps us to feel special and really stand out. And so we're coming from a place of searching typically. And so that is not always the personality that's like here I am, so we have a lot
Yeah.
to overcome. Unless you're just the kind of artist that's really seeking fame and, fame. And there are two different, kinds of artists, and they all create different and great art. So I don't think there's a better or like a good or a bad side of that. I think it all creates art, which is great. But most artists and singers and songwriters are all really turning to music because it's a form of expression that they need to express to the world.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And a lot of healing comes from it as well.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so good for that.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how do you break down, this is a really great question. How do you break down one of your performance pieces in order to really connect with the piece?
I wouldn't say that I break it down. I think more visually in my mind. At this stage in the game, I think more like, what's this going to feel like when I go to perform it? And if I can't get to a place where I can see it visually, then I know that I need to keep working on it. I need to expand upon where I'm at in my mind, because first, when I go to create a song, whether it's like, so, writing it, let's say, and just so you know, like, I didn't start my career as a songwriter. I really became a songwriter because of a need. I felt I needed songs that I could really connect with more, because when I first came out in the industry, I was kind of known as this like young pop diva. And so then I started getting all of these songs sent to me that were like, let's go out and party all night, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, this is so not me, so I just
Right.
started working and started like meeting up with different songwriters, and became a songwriter out of that, so I think a lot of our shortcomings become our strengths. So I know I suffered in the beginning. I caused myself to suffer because I felt like I wasn't a songwriter, and I wasn't an amazing piano player. And so I would say, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this because I'm not this and that, or this and that, or maybe I don't have this, but I've got that. And so I think a lot of us do that. So something we really have to overcome is really not thinking about what we're not good at, thinking about what we are good at. And
Yes.
really learning how to enhance that is the key.
Yeah.
Stand out for the thing that you're good at. And then, honestly, it's time to outsource. At that point, like, go and find the other people that can fill in those gaps. So I know that wasn't the original question, but that's where my brain took me.
That's okay, because actually it's great where you went, because I feel the same way with some of my students. Like, they have compared themselves to other people,
Yeah, it's so
where
normal.
where it's great to get inspiration from them, but
Yeah.
then when you start comparing and then thinking you're not good enough,
Yes.
that's when the potential doesn't thrive. So
Yes.
but yeah.
I have a little tip for that, and that this speaks a little bit more to the original question, I think, is like, for me, like, when I'm in a photo shoot or when I'm doing something that I wouldn't say is like my favorite thing in the world to do, I'll do it because I know it's part of the gig. But I'm good with it, like, I can say, like, okay, well, this is great, this is going to be good, but, like, do I really want to do it? Not really. So, like, to get over my own self-doubt or my own discomfort or whatever, I will, in my mind, pretend to be someone else sometimes. So, like, I can imagine, like, how would Madonna stand in this pose? Or, like, how would, whoever you look up to, like, channel that energy of that person.
Yeah. Would you be doing that before you go to the shoot? Like, would you practice those things before you go?
I would not practice them beforehand, to be honest, but in those moments of fear and self-doubt, I think you have to have a go-to spot where, when the moment you start to feel like you're unraveling in your mind, whether you're in the studio or whether you're on the stage and you're about to run off the stage or whatever, you have to have something that's going to ground you and say, like, okay, what can I do to turn this around? And, like, for me, it's like, if I'm in a situation where I'm feeling vulnerable, I'm feeling awkward or whatever, I've got to be like, okay, Jen, snap out of it. Like, what would like for me, when I was growing up, Madonna was like probably the most fierce, most bold person. So she would always come to my mind. I would think like, what would Madonna do right now? She's not going to crumble under pressure, you know? So that would be my kind of go-to. And so when you start to feel those things, you have to have whatever that thing is, you have to have something to ground you and take you out of your fear.
Sorry, it kind of the connection, the internet connection just stopped.
Oh, did it? Okay.
So yeah. So I think you mentioned something about grounding.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm not sure where it cut off, but I was just saying like when you start to feel those feelings of total fear, you have to have something that will ground you and take you out of that fear and take you to another place. And so like for me, like because Madonna is known for being so bold, she was like an extreme version of me to pull me out of that fear and be like, what would Madonna do? Okay, she's not going to crumble under this pressure. So if you want to do this, like you've got to do it. So yeah, I feel like you've got to have something that will ground you and move you from your fear.
Yeah, great. Okay, so how do you deal with nervousness? Well, that's pretty much, how do you deal, apart from doing what you mentioned just then?
How do I deal with nervousness in general? I mean, I've certainly had my share of nervousness throughout my career. So it just would depend on what was causing the nervousness, I think. Usually what's causing our nervousness is our fear that we are not good enough, our fear that like something terrible is going to happen. So I think what can help us is preparation. Sometimes like I feel like, I don't know, there's different types of people. Some people will over prepare, some people will under prepare, and just know that those are both signs of fear being acted out. So, when we under prepare, it's because we feel like, oftentimes it's because we feel like if we prepare and it doesn't go our way, or for some reason it doesn't work out perfectly, then we really committed and it still didn't work out. So that's painful. So we want to avoid that. Same thing for if we over prepare. We want to control it. We want to, make sure that, well, we can't really, like, you could have the best possible performance on planet Earth and the sound system could break, or it could, rain. It could rain out, or whatever it is, the studio could have a malfunction. Like we just can't control it. So I think the point is like to be prepared and then let go. Like we've just got to like be prepared, do our part, and then let go. And, let the chips fall where they may. And know that like no situation is going to make your career and no situation is going to break your career. It's all little bitty steps that lead towards this ultimate journey that we're on as musicians and singers and the whole thing. And that's the beauty of it, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Awesome.
So there's one question: how much do you practice, and what do you have like a timetable for practice?
I think practicing, it's all about, I think it's important that we just are consistent with it, like when we're going to be performing. So for me, now I'm a mom. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. So I have like a very, dual kind of crazy life right now. Like I'm performing some, I'm recording some, and then I'm doing the mom stuff. And then I'm, just doing more computer-based work. And so I say that all to say that like it's not realistic to say that we are going to be machines and always practicing. But that's why I think it's important that we steal those times when we can, and knowing whatever that moment is that you do for yourself. Let's say that I know one of your questions had to do with work-life balance. And for me, like, I think a big part of it is sometimes like as moms, or even as, people who work or whatever, we get so focused on our daily routine that sometimes we separate our hobby and our passion from our real life. And then what I've noticed that a lot of, singers do is that it's like their singer on Saturday when they go to their class, or when they sing on Sunday at church, and then they go the whole week, and then they do their other life, and then they do their passion when they can squeeze it in. But what if we could squeeze in our passion for 5 minutes every day? What if every day to work, you can just have a recording that you play literally every day, and you just sing along, you warm up your voice. You don't have to be going into the studio that day. You don't have to be singing that day. But what if you were strengthening your voice every single day? Like, that's what it comes down to, is that's the kind of commitment that it's going to take, and that will really, that consistency is what's going to make you a better singer in the long run.
Yeah, that's right. And then just incorporating all those little aspects of singing and listening and just absorbing into your routine. I think
Yes,
that makes
totally
a huge
true.
difference.
I think, just awareness, like you said, is a big deal. Being aware of how other people are using their vocals, how they're layering their vocals, even. Like, if we really listen with discerning ears, I feel like that is what has really taught me so much about the voice. Is I love to listen to other singers. I'm not in a phase in my life right now where I'm breaking down vocals like I once did, but I feel like those early years were so defining for me because I was obsessed with other singers. And I think that obsession really helped me. Now I can just kind of release and be myself, but it's definitely helped, by just loving on other singers.
Yeah, I love your story though, because you came from corporate band, right? A corporate band you were.
Yeah, I was very, very young, but I was born and raised in Georgia in the U.S., and graduated high school and went directly on the road with a cover band. And so we ended up in Las Vegas and Atlantic City, and performing in hotels and casinos. And so from there is when I actually kind of was like discovered in a way. Not really, but it was the way that I was urged into moving to California. And so somebody just really for the first time said oh, you should do this. And I was like, okay, so young. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds fun. So I moved to California. And from that point, that's when I really started learning about the studio and learning all those things. And those early days of singing other people's songs, the songs that were famous, was like an education for me, because you can feel when you sing along with other songs, you can feel song structure, you can feel tonality, you can feel how many vocals are actually adding to a certain section of the song. So, you'll feel the rise of, the simplicity of the verse, and you go into the chorus and you'll feel that how much larger it gets. And so yeah, those early days and just learning other people's songs and their phrasing and trying to really match the vocals so that I could do a good job. I never wanted to be one of those cover band singers that just sounded like terrible,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is like so embarrassing, So I really wanted to give those singers a run for their money, and I didn't want to be like that person just who's had no awareness that it was just so not right, And so I think that definitely gave me a little push that I needed.
Yeah, that's great. Because I remember singing your song "Crush" and listening to it the very first time that I heard it. I was like, "Is this Mariah Carey?"
That's great. I love it. That's so cool.
And then I couldn't work out who it was, and then
so funny.
And then it was you, and I was like, every cover band in Sydney, that was on our list,
Love it. That's awesome.
And I loved, and what you said about listening to it, studying it, and just the tonality in your voice, that's something that I love to listen to and break down.
So fun, right? I know. It's cool to be, that's the fun of being a singer, I think. And I think it's so funny because we are in a time where we as artists and singers, I'm not sure about your students, but I know that people who are really releasing music into the world, it's such a different time because we have to be so well-rounded. We have to, know about social media. We have to be aware, or we will be left in the dust. And that is just the sad truth. And so all that stuff is so important, but I think it's so, so important to just remember why you started singing, and remember to always be bringing that joy into your work, whatever it is, to whatever level it is you want to go with this. I think it's great when somebody just knows that they are I just want to sing at church, and I want to be the best singer that I can be every single Sunday. I think that's a noble cause, and that's why we're given these gifts so that we can touch people, right? And so we can really move people and help people express emotions that maybe they aren't able to express with their own gifts. They have different gifts. And so I feel like that's such a great, we're so fortunate that we get to do this, and so I think just knowing and having the awareness to know that, so you don't suffer, because so many artists and singers suffer because they're like, well, I'm not doing what I want to do, and I'm not to the level I want to be, and Like, I just think it's really important. Yeah, like, great. Let's work towards those things. Let's all be working towards those. But you know what? Enjoy the ride, because this is going to be a long journey. So it's got to be fun. Keep it fun.
Yeah.
Whatever you've got to do to keep it fun. I think it's really important.
That's great. And also, because there's some kids that I've taught since they were young, and then they've moved on to becoming teenagers. So then again, find that spark again, because when you're 7, you're like out there, you want to sing all the time. You want to, So it's
just more awkward years, right? You're in more awkward years. You have more self-doubt, all those things, And then you've got the kids who are more so driven that it's like an obsession, And so it's like, that's why I just want to say, like, everybody, let's just take a deep breath. It's all good. I literally was talking to, I think she was probably 16. And she was like, I said, she was dealing with, like, she wanted to find management. And that's like, and I know that finding management that's probably one of the biggest things that you'll ever do in your career. And it can be daunting, and it can be a great thing. And also, like, it could be a really confusing time. So it's not really the thing that you need to be so focused on as a 16-year-old. There are just a million other things you could be focused on. And I was like, yeah, you've got plenty of time, you've got plenty of time to find the right management team. I think it's great that you're aware that you might need that, but like you actually have time. And she literally said to me, I don't have time. My time is now. And I was like, oh, wow. Girl, your time is not now. Your time is now, and tomorrow, and the next day, and 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. It's all your time. It's all your time, right? Like, let's just be real. It's all your time. Right now, it's your time to maybe do one thing, but it's not, your only time on, like, to make this happen. It's just, that's that control thing that I feel like we got to sometimes just release it, do our best, be prepared, and release.
Yeah. That's great. I love that one.
Awesome.
I love that. Okay. So what type of warm-ups do you do before performing?
I just do basic warm-ups. Like, I'll do the triad. I'll do I'll do all the scales, all that stuff. And my big tip for for vocalists in warm-ups is, do not judge yourself while you are warming up. Be awful. Like, it's okay. Just go in the car. Like, we don't like to hear our voices when they sound bad. That's very normal, and it's cool. But if we cannot allow ourselves to get bad in front of just ourselves or even our family, then we're going to have to hold back when we're actually in front of the audience. So I just really want to say, like, everybody just be terrible. Know that it's going to be terrible while you're warming up, and that's great. Let out your terrible when it's just you and your family. And then,
in your safe room.
Yeah. So I'll just do very basic stuff. I'll do sliding, all that stuff, like from high to low to high again. And then, do the normal scales.
Yeah. Great. And, okay. So how are we going for time? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a bit. So songwriting, what inspires you? Where do you find your inspiration when you're writing your songs?
I think what inspires me most is just life, like being around extreme situations, having extreme feelings. Sometimes they're my feelings, and sometimes they're feelings that I feel because of like people in my life that they're going through. So it just could be like literally like a thought could lead to a phrase, and then that phrase could lead to a melody, and then that melody could lead to like some music, and and then from there I typically like to work with a producer because I'm impatient and I love to just hear a song come together. And so I like to really work with a producer usually to just kind of get the song on its way, because sometimes I've worked on songs where I'll just create like a piano vocal. And then it can be sometimes harder to take it into a producer then, because then they've got to reimagine a beat. They've got to imagine, it can happen, and it happens every day. But like, I love the process of creating it together so that we're like, this is what this thing is morphing into be, as opposed to like, how could we reimagine this? So that's usually my go-to.
Yeah, great.
So like what I like to do now is I'll like to get a song to a certain level, and then I like to take it in. Or sometimes I like to just be like, hey, let's just write and let's see what we come up with. So
yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so we've got a few more questions. This is about work-life balance. So how do you balance your work-life commitments? Do you ever burn out from performing or so much? And if you do, what do you do to get back into the right mind frame?
I think I'm the kind of person that I just go till I can't go anymore. That's just my personality. So I usually find out after it's too late that I took on too much, So that's just the truth. But like I actually once heard Will Smith say something that I thought was hilarious, and he was talking about he was talking about somebody okay, this writer, the writer who's writing Will Smith's story was telling the story. That's what it was. And he said something that I related to so much. He said that he said to Will, like, how do you do it all? Like, how do you, you have this music career and an acting career, and you've got this great family, and you're and like, how in the world do you do it? And he said, man, I just take on more than I can handle, and then I figure out a way to handle it. And I was like, oh, brilliant. Yes, that's so brilliant. Yeah. So I think that's kind of my motto without ever putting those things on it. And, sometimes I mess up, but like for the most part, things run pretty smoothly, and I just try and get help when I need it. And then I'm usually okay.
Yeah. I think that's important to get help and to outsource. When you're feeling overwhelmed. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Because we're not great at everything. We're not supposed to be. So it's important to know when it's time to let go and just like get the help we need. So try and do that when I can.
Awesome. Who is your biggest inspiration is another question. That's a good one.
Do you mean musical inspiration or just inspiration in life?
Yeah, I think inspiration in life, maybe musical inspiration as well.
I can't say that there's one person musically. Like throughout my career, I've been asked, who are your influences? I certainly have some, Annie Lennox, Mariah Carey was one during my high school years. Olivia Newton-John was a big influence when I was really young. She was probably my first influence. I have so many singers, like there have been Celine Dion was a big influence for me. Maybe even more so than Mariah, honestly, like during those high school years, until there was like a couple songs of Mariah that I feel like were like my go-to songs. And I do think those songs really seep into your blood. I remember like singing like Vision of Love in high school, and that was like my talent show song, if you will. So like that song was a really special song for me, and I really found a part of my voice that I hadn't really worked with yet. And so I think like if people hear a Mariah Carey influence, it's because like only years earlier I had been really like living with that song, So I think it's so interesting how things do seep in. So those are some of the singers, but honestly there's just so many I couldn't name. And then just in life, like I have a lot of inspirations from women who are in business and just really cool people. Like a lot of these people I don't know, but like I just find them so such cool people, like Reese Witherspoon and Drew Barrymore and Jennifer Garner, and there are just so many, like, especially actresses, it seems, that are doing really cool things in the world. Like they're not only moms, but then they're like creating businesses, and then they're, doing like a healthy lifestyle thing. They're, their social media, like, amazing. I feel like they're really touching the world in a very positive way. So those are the people that I feel like I respond to most and that I'm most inspired by.
Yeah, I love them too.
Yeah, right? Just good people who are doing good things.
Yeah, awesome, wonderful. Okay, so the last question is, what are your top tips for aspiring artists?
Top tips.
Okay, three top tips.
Okay, 3 top tips. Okay, my 3 top tips. Number 1.
Yeah.
Stop judging yourself. Stop judging yourself. It's okay. You're going to be fine. You're great. You're awesome. You were given this awesome gift. Please enjoy it. That's my number 1. I believe if we were given, and this might even be my number 2, if you feel that urge inside of you, like that crazy urge to perform, you need to perform for some reason or another. You might not need to do it as your career, but you need it. You need to stand out. You need to express yourself. You need to be unique. You need to let go of your shyness. You need to even just grow. It could be like that calling to grow beyond shyness or whatever it is. It kind of doesn't even matter what that reason is. All that matters is that you feel it and that it's there. And I will tell you, if you do not listen to that, you're going to be stuck with that like missing link. There's going to be something inside of you that was never tapped into. And if you're feeling it, you're meant to feel it. You're meant to grow from it, and you're meant to enjoy it. So I say, like, go ahead and just embrace the fact that for whatever reason you were given that creative gene, and just really enjoy that part of your personality, and don't judge it, number 1, and then 2, just accept that it's actually there for a reason, and it doesn't have to be the reason that you think it is. So it might not be that you are meant to be the next whoever you are like so into. It might not be that. It doesn't have to be that, but it might be that you're going to become like so much more confident and go on to do bigger things in your life because you pursued this side of your personality. So just embrace it. And then my number 3 would just be, this might sound cliche, but this is really the best advice I can give you, is put yourself in every single kind of situation that scares you to death. Like if you are like, and own that goal that you have. So like whatever your goal is, own it all the way, so far that you could write it down on paper. And it could be something so ridiculous that you're like, that is the dumbest thing. Like, why am I even thinking that? I'm embarrassing myself to myself because it's so outlandish, And so like sometimes, but like, it's okay if you need to write it down and stuff it in your drawer, or put it in your wallet and look at it every single day. Like every day that you see it, you're going to be like, I'm becoming that person. I'm going to do this. It's a reminder to yourself that this is something that's important to you. So I say, just like, go for it. You might not be ready yet, but if you have that urge, there's a reason for it. If you see some far off dream, like for me, it was like, so sorry. For me, it was like, I had this vision of me being on stage in front of, a huge audience. And I saw that vision of myself from the time that I was a really young girl. And, it was kind of crazy, and I even knew then that it was kind of crazy, but I've gone on to see those audiences. I've sang for those audiences. So many times. So, it's just like, we can really make our dreams come true if we are bold enough to go for it. So I say, go for it.
Yay!
Yes.
That's a really great thing to end it on, because all the things that you've said is just going to help the students so much prepare for their high school certificate in their music exams.
Great.
But it's not just the music exam. That's what I wanted to home in on for the kids. It's like, whatever, do your best, try your best, enjoy the process, but then move on and just realize that all these things that's happening for you at this moment and what you're learning about yourself is going to help you for your career, you know, whether you go on to uni or go and find a job. But yeah, it's just all these things that we learn about ourselves from singing.
Yes.
And the music business is just huge.
Yes.
You know, self-development wise.
Totally. We become, you know, more well-rounded people. We overcome fear. We, you know, we're able to move beyond a situation that we feel stuck in. I mean, we're forced to do that when we're creating things. So you're totally right. Yeah, it's so good for us. Very, very good for us.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jen.
Yes,
that was amazing.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure for sure. So yeah, hopefully it is helpful to everybody. So
yeah, I'm sure that you're so welcome. So you know, let everybody know where they can follow you, and you know, I'm part of your breakthrough membership, which has been wonderful. So yeah, did you want to share any of that with the students? Maybe they can follow you there.
Sure. There is a free Facebook group called The Breakthrough Artist that you guys are all welcome and encouraged to come into. I give basically like little trainings, little bites of information there that I just feel like are missing out in the world right now. There's so like even since I began, there were things that I was asking way back when about like, well, what do I do if ... You know, what if I want to pursue a career in ... You know, it could be like Broadway, or what if I want to become a recording artist, or what if I want to become whatever those things. I had those questions. And I just feel like for whatever reason, the music industry is really behind. There's so much information out there for entrepreneurs and for people wanting to go into different businesses. But for whatever reason, the music industry has been very tight-lipped, and there has been a lot of people out there. You can find people on blogs talking, but a lot of them honestly don't know what it's really like on the inside. So no disrespect meant, it's just they only know this much of the story, and I feel like if they knew more, their advice would be different. So so that's kind of like my goal is to tell the truth, good, bad, and also help people with strategy, because I feel like now more than ever, we have to have strategy. It's just really important because for all the reasons we've been talking about so far. So anyway, that's called The Breakthrough Artist. It's on Facebook, and you can just search for that, and that will show up. And then also I have a private membership where if someone wants to go further, get a little more, you know, one-on-one or group mentorship, then that's a possibility too. So those are, you can actually go to jenniferpaige.com/waitlist, and that will notify you when we open up that membership again. So check that out, and you'll get some emails that will let you know when we're opening that up for the public. So yeah, that would be the best way to get in touch with me. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook, all the places, Jennifer Paige Music.
So I'll have the links so that people can follow you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Jen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm always wishing you well.
You too.
Okay, great. Take care. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye, Jen. Bye.
Bye.
Wasn't she wonderful? I hope you enjoyed that episode. And, you know, go ahead and do that one thing that you have always wanted to do. Maybe you need to go and register for that talent quest, or maybe pick up that pen and start writing that first song that you've always wanted to do, or, you know, make that phone call that you need to do, get in contact, create a jam night, do something towards that dream. You just need to do that one little step, and it builds up, and your confidence will build up as well. So get in contact with myself if you really love this interview and this episode. Feel free to write a review on the Apple Podcast review, and you know, give it the stars that it deserves. And I hope I can bring to you some more wonderful guests. If you have any ideas or any questions, feel free to contact me, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out at the next episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.